What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics Show. Happy Monday. We are live here on DSM-Media, Philadelphia, YouTube, and Twitter channels. Guys, do yourself a favor. Do us a favor. The same way we start each and every one of our live streams. Check us out on Twitter at DSM_media. Smash that follow button. And then check out the link tree. It's in our bio. It will take you to every social media platform we are available on. TikTok, Facebook, all Instagram. We're on everything. But if you guys want to be interactive throughout today's show, make sure to check out the YouTube link specifically, like you can see on your screen right here. That's the logo. That's the name. Subscribe, share it with your friends, family, any other Philly sports fans that you know that may enjoy the content. Again, we greatly appreciate it. I'm one half of your host, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. He's got his Blue Devil gear on. They are playing their last game at Cameron Indoor of the season tonight, as they get ready for the ACC tournament next week. And obviously we're in March. It's March 3rd. Happy March, everybody.
Yes, sir.
If you're on, if you're in the US, if you're on the East Coast, those clocks go, which way are we going, Scotty? I always fuck this up. We going forward, we going backward. All I know is
more daylight.
Yeah.
Backwards, I guess.
I guess so. We lose an hour, right? We lose an hour that night.
Yeah.
On the 9th, but nonetheless, the sun doesn't set till after 7. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
They should just change it. They shouldn't alter the clocks.
Yeah.
Let's just not change them at all. How about that?
7:15, 7:20, sunset every single night.
Some states don't even do it. Some states don't even change the times. I think there's 2 states in the United States that don't change the clocks.
When we moved forward, whatever, in the fall or in the winter, my parents were in Puerto Rico. They don't do it. So, my mom's like, oh, we land at this time. And then I sent her a text. I'm like, you haven't landed? And she goes, oh, no, I was going off of their time because now it's all fucked. So it's like, it's so stupid. But nonetheless, we got a lot to get into today. Darius Slay officially released by the Eagles. Same thing they did back in 2022. So we cannot roll out a possible reunion of the two, but it is looking like Slay is moving on. It saves the Eagles roughly $4.3 million in cap this upcoming year in 2025. We're going to talk about that. Colin Cowherd's had some things to say about A.J. Brown and his little podcast or media tour that he's on right now. And just trade him. You can live life without A.J. Brown, man. You have Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley. You don't need number 11 on your team.
So
we're going to talk about that asinine comment. Phillies, spring training, season predictions, pressure, expectations, and Joel Embiid officially shut down for the rest of the regular season, but not without an added wrinkle in the storyline, Scotty.
Yeah.
Evidently, the big fella had to go directly to ownership. He had to go directly to Josh Harris himself. And I don't know what that conversation went like, but basically had to say, yo, I cannot play the rest of this season. We're looking into alternative resolutions to get my knee back to being healthy and get me on the floor next year and in the future. Quentin Grimes dropped 44, if you guys were interested. The Sixers won a game. Do we want them to win a game? So much is on the table for today's show, man. What's going on? It's the longest introduction of my life.
Yeah. Good job, man. That was a long one, but you got it done. Even in the off season for the Eagles, off season for the Phillies, down season for the Sixers, we still got a decent amount to talk about. So I can't complain on this fine Monday, man. Anytime we're getting fresh news like the Darius Slay release, it's always fun to hop on here immediately, right? Like ASAP, right after it happens, and see how everybody's feeling. I don't know about you. I mean, this is something that's been talked about, quite honestly, for the last 3 years, like let alone just going into this off season. But this is something with Darius Slay that's been talked about for like the last 3 off seasons, that it might be time to move on from him. It's not to say that like he's washed. It's not to say that he's cooked or done or anything like that. He played very well last year, obviously turned into a Super Bowl champion. Sometimes you just have things that are moving in a different direction. You have options on the team that you feel could replace him moderately or modestly, I guess you could say, in a sense of it being cheaper than Darius Slay. So we can obviously jump. If you want to jump, I kind of jumped into it already, but I think it's just always fun to talk about this stuff when it first happens,
Absolutely.
Get those instant reactions. But this is something that you could kind of see coming.
Yeah.
Is it an inkling towards Myles Garrett? Are they creating that path? I don't know if that's the case because, like I said, it's been talked about for a while that this might be happening. So I
Yeah, I mean,
don't
it
think
was
I'm
talked about the
surprised.
entire playoff run. I mean,
Yeah,
I remember going into the NFC Championship
he
game, the
talked
divisional
about
round, and
it.
and him actually saying, this could be my last game at the link, and so it's been a storyline for years. He was released in 2022. He and Fletch were released that offseason, and then obviously, heads start to swirl,
Thought he
and
was going to be
they
a
bring him back on a
Raven.
cheaper year. I think that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest point when it comes to Darius Slay right now. Darius Slay, it has nothing to do, I don't think, with his production. It has nothing.
Right.
It's just age and value at this point.
Yeah.
Darius Slay, I would love to have him back, basically on a year-to-year basis. And no athlete wants to play football that way. So obviously, we'll see how things play out. We'll see how many years he has left in the league. If he decides to come back on a cheaper deal, I would welcome it with open arms because, I'm not in love with the idea of moving Cooper DeJean outside. I would love to keep Cooper DeJean exactly where he is and have another guy across from Quinyon Mitchell. Now, whether that's a younger Isaiah Rodgers getting the full-time job next year, if not Darius Slay, we'll see. But to Phil's point to the STT Sports Network here, it's one of the best. Yeah, it's one of the best trades Howie Roseman and the Eagles franchise have ever made. Darius Slay, you can make the argument that he is the greatest Eagles corner. No, I don't want to take it that far because I don't want to disrespect the. Yeah, I almost took it a little too far for a second, but. You got Eric Allen's of the world.
Tough.
Yeah,
you got guys, Eric Allen.
But wins a Super Bowl here, went to 2. Is one of the most talented, one of the best cornerbacks to ever wear an Eagles uniform. Multiple Pro Bowls, multiple All-Pros, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 championship in his tenure. So shout out to Slay, man. I've given him a lot of shit over the last couple of years, and it hasn't been because of his play on the field. It's been because of the lovey-dovey, get our ass beat, claps, let me go join a pod with Micah Parsons and laugh about shit. That's when I've gotten on Darius Slay, but nonetheless, Darius Slay is an all-time Eagles great at this point, and thank you for everything that he did here.
He's a different breed, man, and I think it is. I don't know. I'm just like moving around in my head here as you talk through, and I'm thinking about things. Thinking about AJ Brown and kind of the way he moves, right? You saw Deebo Samuel with an AJ Brown jersey on. AJ Brown has come out after we've lost to the Niners.
Athletes are different nowadays, for the most part.
He's talked about how he's friends with Deebo, right? Like that's one of his best friends. So at the end of the day, it comes down to production. It comes down to what you're putting on the field. And as long as Slay wasn't getting toasted on the field, nobody was going to really, really care about what he does off the field. And you can see that with AJ Brown. We'll talk about that in a little while here. But I do agree with everything you said about Darius Slay. I think when you talk about value, to SCT's point there in the comments, you don't get better than that as far as a lockdown, big play corner, a guy that can get you turnovers as well. And he kind of came in and changed the culture in that DB room. That DB room kind of elevated in a sense from what we had seen in previous years. We had been dealing with like Jalen Mills and the Ronald Darbys of the world, right? And Darius Slay kind of bailed us out of that. He kind of had a little bit of a dip there. At least it felt like from the outside it was a dip, but in reality, the numbers-wise, it really wasn't. And to your point, he gets cut. We think that him and James Bradbury are on the way out. Kind of has a bounce back in a sense with the Eagles. It comes back as sort of a second, like a rebrand in a sense when he comes back and ultimately gets the Super Bowl championship. When you talk about greats, I mean, you mentioned Eric Allen. I think that's the one that he just got inducted to the Hall of Fame. I didn't get to watch a ton of him play. I don't think he was in my era at all, to be quite frank with you. But the guys like Troy Vincent, which I know he played safety and corner, Lito Shepherd, those guys come to mind. You can bring it up to the newer era. You talk about Asante Samuel, that guy comes to mind. But Slay's up there nonetheless. I'll give him the credit where it's due. I do think as far as like the plan going forward, I think the Eagles do this with Isaiah Rodgers in mind. I think that is the plan. I think that the idea was always for him to sit out a season, play this year as like a third alternate type of corner and get the full-time job next year. But you do have a guy like Kelee Ringo, and I'm not like lobbying for him to start, but He's a guy that comes from a big university. He's part of that Georgia crew. He's made plays on special teams. Yeah. Maybe he gets a chance to like earn some snaps there. You got the whole draft to replace and get younger there as well. I would not move Coop. To your point, I'm not moving Cooper outside. Yeah, I'm letting him make plays on the inside there, like you said.
I think the blueprint's the blueprint in a Fangio defense, and what was proven this year is
exactly. But I don't think we're going to invest money into like another corner. I don't think that's the route either. But to your point about Slay, I think the big question with him is he looking for a 3-year deal, a 2 to 3 year deal, or does he feel like he only has one good year of football left? Yeah. If he feels like he has one good year left, just come back to the Eagles and play that last season out with us, bro. Yeah, if he wants multi years, then I think he's gonna have to go elsewhere for that. But I think the 1 year deal is what could get him back here, depending on the number, obviously. But who knows? Make way for Myles Garrett, right? Like you just never know when you make these type of moves. James Bradbury should be the next pillar to fall down and save us some money. And once again, man,
I was looking for Goddard earlier.
Goddard is the one that keeps lingering out there. I don't want to see it. But you just never know.
The weird thing about the Goddard rumor, man, is I don't know that I've seen it from any sources.
Credible.
So like surrounding the team, like
it's just an idea
itself. It's like like how he could do this. Let's see. Slay goes back to Detroit. Not bad. So here's the thing, Brian. We talked about this last week. First of all, he's not old. He's like 29 years old. He just had 14 sacks last year. But it's not necessarily we need a Myles Garrett, but you are looking at losing Josh Sweat and Milton Williams. You're going to have to do something on the defensive line. So you need someone on the defensive line who better than arguably the best defensive player in the world. But again, it's up for discussion when it comes to that. But Darius Slay for me, man, the last thing I'll say about it is he brought back like he brought back relevancy to CB1 for me. Yeah. Like we hadn't had a competent lockdown number one corner in over a decade.
Yeah.
Like you could argue since Asante Samuel left. I mean, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie came here at a time from Arizona, was fine. Obviously, that was dream team time. Like nothing ever worked out. They signed Nnamdi Asomugha. They signed or traded for Byron Maxwell, and we went through the Kerry Williams. Like we hadn't had a true number one cornerback in such a long time. He brought that back, and success comes with it. So, like, you trade for Darius Slay a few years ago, and within his tenure here, we went to 2 Super Bowls and won one. That is important when it comes to how you like your legacy, your credibility, how you're remembered in my mind. So, yeah, man, it's gonna. We'll see if how much it has an effect on this team this upcoming year. But
let me ask you this: when it comes to those young corners,
hold on, man.
Any concern? And I mean concern very in the lightest sense. Any concern of a drop-off from guys like Quignon, guys like Cooper DeJean without that Darius Slay? Are we underrating his veteran presence in that locker room?
I do think a little bit. Like I do think that's one thing I was going to add on when Martian mentioned his apology after week 2 is I do think Slay, like, I know he's got
guys loved him.
He's got kids and he's married, but like Slay grew up leadership wise from the collapse last year to this year. I think he and a lot of other people in that building learned from last year, and I think he took on much more of a true mentor type of role to those guys.
Yeah,
I don't think it affects them once he's out now. You know what I mean? But I do think he definitely earned that C that was on his chest. That at one point. I question, man, like you're wearing this C, and I got dudes like Jalen Carter saying they hate the fucking Cowboys, and you're Chatty Cathy with Micah Parsons on a podcast headed the week before our game. It's like I didn't like that kind of stuff. I don't think he did much of it this year. He hopped on a Twitch here and there. I don't care about that shit because again, like you said before, winning does solve all.
That's an interesting point you brought up there. Just like when you mentioned Jalen Carter and you mentioned captain, can he be a captain in his third season?
I don't
like with his personality, like wouldn't that be like the next
right?
step in his development though? Is like the mental part of
For
the game.
sure.
It's like that, like he does everything so well on the field, right?
Talent-wise,
Like his talent
production-wise.
is through the roof. He could be a
Yeah,
little bit more consistent, maybe, but it's
I don't
really
know
just
that
the
you
mental
can
aspect,
sport.
like
I don't know
growing
if you
up.
can sport a C on your chest if you're one of those guys that is doing some extracurriculars on a week to week and 15-yard penalty. I love the fire under Jalen Carter. I'm saying, can you sport this? Like, you got to be the guy that's level-headed, that brings that guy back down and stop him.
He'll get there. Maybe not year 3.
But I don't know about this year.
Is it year 3 or is it year 4? It's year 3, right?
We're going into year 3 of Jalen Carter.
Going into year 3 for Jalen Carter.
4 of Jordan Davis.
You're probably right. If anybody, in that young group, if anybody I could see like growing into a leader, obviously Nakobe Dean has already been a voice back there, but Nolan Smith is that guy.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
He's still got the energy, but he just, I don't know, he puts his words together a little bit better, I guess, than Jalen Carter. I've never seen Jalen Carter lead a speech.
Was Landon a captain this year or no? No, right?
He acted like one.
I know.
I'm not sure,
he was always leading.
There's no way he was, right? Like, because Mailata and Lane were captains.
Yeah.
Jalen, Saquon?
I think so. Slay,
AJ.
Jake. Yeah.
Smitty wasn't a captain this year.
No.
Jake, Slay.
Yeah. I think
CGJ?
Maybe.
Is he a captain?
I don't think so. They might. I can't remember if they made him one and that was a big deal, or if they didn't make him one and that was kind of the.
How many captains do you get? I don't know. I'm curious.
I think we had 7 or 8, but regardless, like Landon's definitely a guy I can see. Coming up with his vocalness and everything. So
Zach Bond, if he gets signed back,
yeah, for sure,
he's a guy. CB1, what's Quinyon look like in year 2? What's CB1? What's that look like in year 2 when he gets to take command of the DB room and get to be the legitimate guy?
If CGJ wasn't one this past year, maybe that's the guy that gets it in the defensive backs room with Slay moving on.
He's definitely a leader back there for sure.
Yeah. Again, you just got to ring it. You got to control. I'm not saying let the fire burn down.
Going up to Travis Kelce, the same. Like, is that what your captain does? Like, I don't know. You lead with energy for sure.
But
you got to tread lightly for sure.
For sure.
Like, you got to be in control of that group. Nakobe Dean, he had to have had a C, right? He had to have.
You might be right.
Be in the middle linebacker.
Yeah, he probably did. Probably did. Take that C.
It'd be interesting.
Jake's had to be much better now. Hey, lights out in the last 2 games of the season. So that's all I'll care about, right?
Pressure in those games.
Actually, he missed an extra point in the Washington game because I remember. Or no, was it
he missed in one of those games because it made it extra tight. Was it the Rams game though?
Well, he missed in the Rams. He missed a couple times in the Rams game. But I think he missed in Washington because I think we scored. The Jalen touchdown run was no. The hell? Oh,
because there was a point in that Washington game where we squandered away 3 possessions early. And I remember us texting. We're like, "Yo, what the fuck? Like, we're gonna fuck this up right now because we're not getting
he
points."
Did something that annoyed me. Nonetheless,
we scored 7. Could have had 3 more. Missed a field goal, and then I don't know. It was something.
You know what it is?
That.
I just have too many positive memories on my mind that I don't worry about what happened there.
What's your favorite play from the Super Bowl? Now that we're 2-3 weeks since.
My favorite play in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
it's Cooper's pick 6. I mean, it was the most electric play. It was the game altering play. I think I said this to you when we did the recap. You got to remember the importance of that moment. It was 10. The Eagles were controlling the entire game. Time of possession. The Chiefs didn't have a first down, yardage. They were up 10-0. There's about 7 or 8 minutes left at half. Chiefs had the ball. Chiefs were getting ball out of the half. At that time, you're not comfortable at 10-0, no matter what the statistics are showing you. Chiefs go down, even get 3, maybe long possession, or it's just 10-0 at halftime and they get the ball out of half. He does that, bro. That's instantly 17-0. Now everything's different. The Chiefs are a little bit more panicky. They have to go. And then everything else just set in with the pass rush. But it was such an important moment. It was fucking awesome on his birthday. The rookie, we loved him when they drafted him. It was just a culmination of that. And then you have the dagger.
Yeah,
that has to be phrased.
It's between those two for me.
Great
for
call
sure.
by Kevin Burkhardt, but
I think that's what it is. It is the call with the play on the Smitty bomb, and it is the dagger. It's the finisher, and then you get the mic'd up stuff with Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore, right? And I think that adds like the extra features. It's kind of like the Phillies special, right, where you get to see Doug call the play, and you get. Well,
that's the thing, right? Like the dagger, we were up by a lot already. And you think it's going to be a handoff. So when you're watching the beginning of the play, you hear what Burkhardt's saying until it's thrown, right? The Cooper pick 6, I'm not going to lie to you, until you watch it back on clip form on Twitter, I don't hear what they're saying because I'm screaming my fucking head off, jumping like a maniac. So I didn't hear the call on the Cooper pick until that night. The Slay or the Smitty touchdown was, you're expecting handoff, you're hearing him, the ball's in the air, and you're kind of just like watching, and then he catches it and you go nuts. So you get the full effect on that play.
Yeah, no, I do tend to agree. It would be between those two plays, and I do think just this comment as well, just the culmination of the night of just seeing Mahomes get thrown around, throw some picks,
the strip sack by Mill,
it was it was like a culmination of everything with Patrick Mahomes and just watching the defense dominate in that fashion. But I was just curious. Our minds have been cleared since those days, so just wondering if things change. But no, there were two very, very signature plays in that.
Speaking of signature plays in the Super Bowl. The next thing we have on topic is you do not trade away a top 5 wide receiver, a captain, a guy that scored in the Super Bowl, scored in both Super Bowls that he's played in with us. Colin Cowherd, I quote tweeted it, had maybe the dumbest thing to say this offseason post-Eagles Super Bowl win. There's been some dumb things said. Shady McCoy, said some dumb things earlier today. But Colin Cowherd basically talked about A.J. Brown going on this little media tour, going on podcasts, being very vocal, being a diva, causing issues in the past or saying things in the past that have stirred the pot in the locker room and behind the scenes, and basically said you could wipe your hands clean of A.J. Brown, trade A.J. Brown because you're good enough to win without A.J. Brown. You have Devontae Smith and that line and Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert. You're good enough.
It's just disrespectful.
Slightly forgetting that the Eagles quite literally did not lose a football game this year in which A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts played together. When I say play together, I use that term loosely. Jalen, they lost the game with A.J. in Washington. Jalen's knocked out in the second possession. They did not lose a football game this year in which Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown started and finished together. But you could just wipe your hands clear of that top 5 player at his position, Scotty. Don't worry about it.
Trade him to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Play with Drake May. He'll get him the ball.
Yeah. So it takes the cake for dumbest thing said this offseason for sure. Yep. Same guy.
So far. We got a long off season to go.
Same guy that used to judge quarterbacks whether they wear their hat this way or this way, Martian. He had a legitimate topic on that. So, same guy.
Yeah, it is funny, man. You look at AJ since he joined the Eagles, 283 catches, 4,297 receiving yards, 27 touchdowns, 3-time All-Pro, 2-time Super Bowl Super Bowl appearances, and a Super Bowl champion with the Eagles. But yes, trade him away. Yes,
correct. So Phil said earlier about the Slay signing. He mentioned the word value, which is very true. Like one of the biggest value trades ever in Eagles history. Saquon obviously are the greatest free agent signing in Eagles history with what took place this year and winning a Super Bowl. But like right up there, A.J. Brown, one of, if not the greatest trade the Eagles have ever made. A.J. Brown has been an Eagle for 3 years. They have gone to the Super Bowl 2 times and won one in 3 years. A.J. Brown's been here.
Yeah.
You do not
like,
just
speaks
wipe
for
your
itself.
hands clear of that level of talent.
It speaks for itself,
on,
and I
Greg.
think especially in the city of Philadelphia, it means even more. When we had a star receiver by the name of Terrell Owens ripped from our grasps at a young age, right? Like for me, I was in a very young age, so
Yeah, I mean, I was
for
like
me, I didn't
17.
understand like all the off the field stuff. I didn't
Yeah.
understand Donovan and Terrell Owens not getting along and all of that off the field drama that caused Terrell Owens to end up in Dallas, right?
Mhm.
I didn't understand any of that shit. So me watching Terrell Owens, basically my favorite player when I was younger, if I'm being for real, like when I'm younger and you're watching a wide receiver like that take over for your team,
top 3,
it instantly
top
becomes
5.
a favorite player. Like that type of talent. Like, yes, Brian Dawkins was exciting. He'll knock your head off, but the offensive players always end up the bigger stars, right? And Terrell Owens was that star. So I think just from that, wanting that back so bad. And then you go to Deshaun Jackson, right? And he gets traded in his prime or released, not even traded, released in his prime. You watch him go to the Commanders and some other teams mixed in there. Jeremy Maclin has a 1,000-yard year and goes to Arizona or some shit the year after, right? So every great wide receiver we've had ripped from us. Not even great wide receivers, like just good wide receivers even.
Well, no, some of the biggest name wide receivers we've ever had. I mean, not a wide receiver, but we literally watched Chip Kelly gain control of this team and then trade away LaShawn McCoy. And I know I was just taking a jab at Shady in the media, but like
on the field, he was him. Yeah.
Before Saquon Barkley wore an Eagles jersey, Shady McCoy was the greatest Eagles running back I've ever witnessed.
Yeah.
So
I think with Philadelphia, I think we tread even lighter, like we need to with AJ Brown. And I think the thing I'll throw to you is AJ Brown a diva? And if he is, does it fucking matter? Does it matter?
No.
I think we need to tread lightly with the way we judge AJ Brown in Philadelphia because he means a lot more to this team than what we know, I feel.
First and foremost, no, it does not matter. Not one iota does it matter.
Right.
Is he a diva? I don't think diva is the correct word with AJ. I think like there's been things like we cannot like, and I know he's come out and acted like the media did not just make up every story that has come out.
Is he moody? Is that what he is?
I think so. No, I think like in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Before literally like the possession before he caught the touchdown pass off the ball, he was pissed off. And then he catches the touchdown, and now we're dancing. We're having a good. I think yes, he's a wide receiver. They want the ball. They want attention. He said some things that have stirred the pot in the past. He's been here 3 years. Yeah. They've been to 2 Super Bowls and just won 1. He's top 5 at his position. I don't care if he's going on podcast. Just don't start because he's not stirring the pot right now.
Yeah.
He's not doing it. He's not saying anything crazy. He went on Gilly's podcast, who's an Eagles super fan, and did a Jalen impression. They were laughing, cracking jokes. Like that shit doesn't matter, man.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think when you hear even like some of the tidbits, like what got ripped out of that conversation with Gilly is the fact that he said that he's had to say something to Jalen about getting the ball to other guys early in the games. Is that not good advice? Is that just not good advice from a teammate to another teammate? Well, like that's not talking shit. That's just advice that he gave to Jalen.
He's wearing a C on his chest.
Right.
He's allowed to be vocal in a game plan in what they should do to be successful. So, like, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. The one thing I will throw out there. Why no media presence like with Jalen? And it's not necessary. I'm just curious. Like why no interviews with Jalen and AJ? Like I guess maybe Jalen's just not doing as much as AJ
I'll
is.
tell you right now.
You see Saquon with Jalen go on Saturday Night Live or whatever it was, Jimmy Fallon show.
Yeah. Whatever. Or no, Jimmy Fallon. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. Like, why no? You could squash like everything. I think that is the other side of it is that AJ and Jalen like could they could squash it so easily with just like saying certain things, but they just
Can
don't.
I tell you?
I think they like the mystique of it in a sense, like not
Yeah.
everybody not being in the business or not knowing
Can I
what's
tell you
going
when
on.
they squashed it?
Yeah.
A few Sundays ago. Like, I don't need to.
I feel you though. I do. I really do.
I squashed it.
Yeah.
We just won a fucking Super Bowl together.
Yeah.
We squashed it. That's all. And Jalen
Very
didn't
simple.
do it. Jalen didn't do the media we listened to. Jalen was on doing the whole, Super Bowl MVP media tour that, I don't care if he's on Good Morning America and The View and whatever other fucking shows he had to go on because he won Super Bowl MVP. He did that. You're not getting Jalen on you're not getting him on podcasts. He did the New Heights podcast that he probably loved Kels, whatever. Yeah. That was a one-off type of situation, more than likely. You ain't getting Jalen on much else, brother.
Not $1 million worth of game.
No.
I don't know. Not with those guys, man. Like, I feel like it's also one of those things, like, if you did get an interview with him, it would be so restricted in what you can ask him or in what he can answer on.
Bro, he wouldn't shotgun a beer on television with his teammates. You think he's sitting on a couch next to Gilly while Gilly lights up this fat-ass blunt and just starts smoking out the room? Like, no, that ain't...
I do think AJ, like, there's times where I'm like, I do understand it. I do understand where he comes from. But there are times where I'm like, man, would you please just not do that? Like, would you please just not let that be seen? Like the Super Bowl. Like, in the Super Bowl, all that happened was Jalen, like, maybe missed a read on the throw or maybe the route was ran wrong or whatever. And he's, like, flipping out. And it's like, he just wants to win so bad. I know.
The thing that it comes down to for me is reading a room and timing.
Yeah.
Like, everyone in that organization, that locker room, could hear and see what was being said after the Carolina game and all that stuff. The timing. And no, the media did not pull out a false quote from you.
All right.
You might have shorted what you meant to say, but what you said stirred the pot that was already on fire because of the media and the fan base and everything. So read the room, bro. No, not to say that thing in that moment. That's the only issue I've had with some of the issues the last 3 years. But again, squashed. Does not matter.
Yeah.
Dunzo. Colin Cowherd, you are a fool. And by the way, I want to extend this full invitation to any and every NFL fan, or more specifically, fans up in the Massachusetts area that for some reason think AJ Brown is like available in trade conversations.
They're
like
fascinated
they just keep
by AJ.
Throwing out because Mike Vrabel's now the head coach. Mike Vrabel's now involved. They just keep throwing out like these mock trades and everything. Like, guys need a reality check.
I think they might have saw one of these pictures of AJ when he was younger and he was a Patriots fan or whatever the case may be. Dude, like, come on. Why the fuck would he leave the team that just won the Super Bowl to go play with Drake May and the New England Patriots? Like, let's just be real here, man.
You know that dude, that older guy that's on like does CBS. And like that video went viral of him saying he would take like Dak and all these dudes over Jalen after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So he, like, whatever show they do, there was another guy on the show. There was a round table of 4, and they for some reason brought back the Jalen conversation.
Yeah.
And like the other dude on the show, not even the one that was in conversation before, said that he would take Drake May tomorrow if he was starting a team instead of Jalen. I mean, he said basically everybody and their mother. Like Trevor Lawrence, Dak, CJ Stroud, Jaden Daniels, Jordan Love. He would take all these guys. He would take over Jalen. And then he threw in the Drake May part, and I just all right. So
it's so interesting
to be said, but anyway,
so interesting. I mean, is it that easy to get on television and just spew? Yeah, like, is that all we got to do, man?
That's the gripe I've had. I have quote tweeted so many things and just said the same exact thing. I think you and I would agree. Like, that is a dream job. If you and I could take what we do here and turn it into a much bigger platform, or like those dudes have a dream job. And I get it. It's about clicks and engagement and everything. So, but I could never just say something I didn't think or believe in the moment. Like, there are things that I've said about the Eagles, about the Phillies, about the Sixers, about players, positive or negative at one point. And then a couple months later, I went, oh, God, that's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, I said those things. But in the moment, I thought them. These dudes have to be saying things they don't actually believe a thing.
It's a script. And I do think it's exactly what you said there. It's accountability, because it's one thing to go on the internet and say things. It's another thing to go into the divisional round and say that the Rams are going to beat the Eagles because the Rams have Matthew Stafford and they're going to beat them because Jalen Hurts can't throw the football, whatever. And then they beat the Rams, and then we get to the next week and it's the Eagles are going to lose to the Commanders because Jaden Daniels is a better quarterback. He's going to go into Philadelphia. And down the line, right? Patrick Mahomes now, the Chiefs are going to beat the Eagles. And this is the same guy that you're talking about. I don't know his real name. It's either Phil or Pete. It's a P. I know it is because I saw him on.
Older looking dude, balding, white hair.
He was on 97.5. They called him onto the show after he put out that list.
Yeah,
they went through it with him, man. And that's the thing. We can't just ignore things that we've said in the past, like me, like you, with the Sixers, right? And how great this season was going to be with Paul George and the additions of the offseason. Every single time that I say something about the holistic view of this season for the Sixers, I feel like I have to throw in that I said it was going to be a great season because I was so fucking wrong. And that's the thing that these guys on national television are lacking, in my opinion, because Emmanuel Acho, say that you're wrong. LaShawn McCoy, say that you're wrong. Chris Sims, say that you're wrong. Like, that's all we want from these guys is to recognize that you see that what you said last week was completely incorrect. Yeah. But it never happens. And we just move on to the next totem pole or the flagpole that we're going to post up.
And I think Kincaid roasted him, and I loved every second of it. He roasted him.
Yeah, I loved it.
He basically, the dude basically said, put these guys we're talking about in this on the Eagles.
Yeah.
Right? Put Trevor Lawrence on the Eagles. Put CJ Stroud on the Eagles, right? With all this talent. And Kincaid basically snapped right back and said, then why did you pick against them every single game? And he said he didn't pick against them in one. And he's like, okay, but you, I think whether it was Green Bay or the Rams, he didn't pick against the Eagles in one of those two games. But the other one he did, the Commanders he did, the Chiefs he did.
Yeah.
So, again, it comes back to this conversation, man. If Jalen Hurts is this merchant of, this amazing, unstoppable roster, then why were you picking against the Eagles all year in the postseason? Why, after they beat the Chiefs the way they did, would you come out and say that you would still want this guy or this guy or this team next year? It's like, okay, just
because the Trevor Lawrence shit, man, and obviously Drake May too, that's the first I've heard that one, right?
Oh yeah, it's a good one. Trevor
Lawrence, Justin Herbert on an even further case as far as he's closer to Jalen, but still, come the fuck on. At a certain point, talent, you have to put it on the field, man.
Yeah. It comes down.
They just haven't.
I swear to God, for some reason with these dudes, it comes down to the combine. That's what they would prefer to watch. Aesthetically pleasing. Watching Justin Herbert throw one 48 yards on a rope.
Absolutely.
Might look better to you than what Jalen Hurts does.
He's taller. He's the prototypical QB frame, right?
Yeah.
I get it in theory.
Hasn't won a playoff game. Just turned the ball over 5 or 6 times in his last playoff
4
game.
interceptions.
Has his hand in the pot for the worst loss, comeback loss in postseason history a few years ago against Jacksonville. But you would take him over the guy that's been to 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years and just won a Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
That is so fucking stupid to say.
And now,
it's so wrong to say.
And now the Chargers, don't have talent around Justin Herbert. Did he not have Keenan Allen and when Mike Williams was healthy out there, right? And Austin Eckler, and then then Bosa and Khalil Mack on the other side on defense. Like, miss me with the lacking of talent. Last year, maybe, with Ladd McConkey as your number one as a rookie. Yeah. Same thing with Josh Allen. Like, let's not just sit here and pretend that he didn't have Stephon Diggs as wide receiver one for the entire beginning of his career. Yeah. And he still couldn't win. Last year was the first time we've seen him without him, and he just gets an MVP because of it, because he played without Stephon Diggs, right? Correct. Like, what else was it last year, Dylan? Like, he played without Stephon Diggs, MVP. Like this is the stuff I'm talking about. Like, people just make shit up. Like, these guys have had talent around them. What's Lamar Jackson's excuse? Why does he get ranked above Jalen? And I'm willing to hear Lamar. I do think Lamar is better than Jalen in reality. It's one of those things, like, he puts up the numbers, right? But there's an argument, which guy would you want in the big game? And if the answer is Jalen, why isn't he the better quarterback?
Right. If you were building, why are you building a team, Scotty? You're building to what? Win a championship, right?
Right. Win it all.
That's what you have to go off. You don't go off of by the combine drills and the size and the shoulders, and just it really is. It's very frustrating to watch.
This continues to
listen to, I should say. But
yeah,
again, you can't knock me off the mountain that I'm on right now.
So. No, not at all, man. Not at all. It's more fun now, right? Like, before it was aggravating. It was annoying to see this shit. Now it's just more fun. I honestly, I've stopped responding. I've picked up a ton of gifs, like the If Man with like Josh Allen, Lamar, and Burrow. I picked up a ton of memes and stuff, but like, I've stopped responding to the shit because it's pointless. I'm in heaven right now, and you can't bring me down to where, these miserable Chargers and Bills and all these other guys.
What's that middle level? I'm not in that
limbo.
Purgatory.
Yeah.
Can't bring me down to you're stuck. You can't get over the hump. You can't beat Mahomes. My guy, we're up here.
Yeah, we've moved on.
Yeah. Craig, this is a wild
National March Madness.
You can't.
Not I, Craig.
Madness. I can't pass the March Madness ever.
Nah, man. Ever. It's such a beautiful time.
Yeah. Now, there's always the argument to be made. Like, what do you prefer more? The first weekend, like the first 2 days, or the Final Four? Because the first, all right, if you get Auburn versus Duke, that's a dream matchup, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But those first 2 days, nothing beats the Thursday and Friday. Like, nothing compares to those 2 days, man. So,
Cinderella stories. Gotta love it. You gotta love it. But yeah, D-Rab, people taking Wake Forest spread, do what you must.
What is that spread, like 23?
It's been fluctuated, 19.5, 20.5, but man,
lower than I imagined.
Yeah, it is lower than what it's been, ironically enough. But you can take it for what it is, right? They're at home. It's senior night. It's the last home game that Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple, these guys that are going to get drafted, move on. Last game they're going to play in Durham at Cameron Indoor.
ACC Rookie of the Week last week.
Isaiah Evans. I don't know. Maybe it's a setup by the books. Maybe this will be the first time in like 3 or 4 weeks since that Clemson game that Duke hasn't covered the spread and their team total. But man, I've been raking in the money on Duke over this last month, bro. Since that Clemson loss before the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I've been raking.
Dude, I'm telling you, I want to, bro. And
the spreads are wild, bro.
Yeah,
I've been taking 25-point spreads.
Yeah, I wish I could. I wish I could get behind it.
It's my bias, though.
I can't do it. But then I watch them beat fucking who they beat, Illinois, like 109.
Yeah, by like 40+ points.
Yeah, like it's
The other night, Cooper Flagg doesn't even play most of the first half because he gets like poked in the eye or some shit. They end up dropping 100 points. So I don't know. We'll see,
At
man.
The pace they play too is crazy.
Yeah, they play good. They play great defense.
Yeah.
You can see I'm excited about Duke. I could talk about it, but I know this.
I'm ready, bro. We got it. The next 2 weeks we'll start to get into it and start to get into the field.
This one, yeah, I'm glad you pulled that out. I literally was about to click on that, man. Hell no.
So, no, not at all. I'm not scared of Debo going to Washington. I think, like, theoretically, it's a good, I understand it. Like, if we were on Turf Talk, taking Eagles by side, taking, the fact that we just played them in the NFC Championship game aside, like, yeah, it's cool, right? Like, they got, they got another guy outside of Terry McLaurin, because it feels like they've only had Terry McLaurin for so long, and they only traded a fifth for him, and Jaden Daniels gets another weapon. Theoretically, it sounds like a nice piece.
Yeah.
Deebo Samuel, I don't think has been over 800 yards in his last 3 years. I don't think he's been consistently healthy over his last 3 years. And at this point of his career and the age, like, oh, we have Austin Eckler and Deebo Samuel. Yeah, 4 years ago, that might have struck a little fear into me. That's not getting it done at the moment. So no, I'm not fearful of Deebo Samuel in a Commander's uniform.
Yeah, and I think to an even further point, you're talking about the Eagles. Like, yeah, maybe if I'm the Cowboys, the Commanders are something.
Oh, you've been surpassed. You have been surpassed.
Yeah, like they're no longer the second team in the NFC East. But I think when you're measuring against, let's be clear here, the Super Bowl champions.
Yeah.
I don't think Deebo Samuel is like moving that needle closer,
right.
from us.
And this isn't like the Lions where we have some unknown in play. They didn't get a shot at the king this year.
Right. They got a shot.
You got a shot.
They got a couple shots.
They got a lot of shots. And we know the mocker, we're 1-1 with the Eagles. We know everything that went into all that. But at the end of the day, you got 55 hung on you in the NFC Championship game. The biggest game of your life, you gave up 55 and got smacked. So you had your shot, the king. You missed greatly. Debo ain't helping you next year.
Another thing I'll throw in there, man, because let me just say this: for a fifth round pick, it's a good pickup. I'm not going to sit here and hate on Deebo Samuel for a fifth round pick. What it comes down to at the end of the day, the Eagles are set up nicely against a player like Debo as well. When you got a guy like Cooper DeJean, who is the future at slot and nickel cornerback for our team. So we're talking about one of the best in the league, if not the best slot corner in the NFL, in Cooper DeJean going into next year, his second year. The other thing I'll say, man, is I don't know the science on this, the numbers. Does this take them out of the Myles Garrett running? Because now you have a lot of money, right, tied up in Deebo Samuel, Marshawn Lattimore, who you just picked up last midseason, and of course Terry McLaurin. I believe he's due for a new contract or just got one of the sorts. So there's going to be a lot of money tied up there. Nonetheless, does that take them out of the Myles Garrett running?
I want to say no, because I feel like that would have been something promoted the second this trade went down. So I'll say no. I don't really know about it though. But it definitely makes it interesting. And I think that's the other thing, right? Like, we're over here focused about, paying Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
Well, I got a news flash for everybody. Jalen Carter was only drafted 1 year prior to Jaden Daniels. So if we're worried about potentially having to pay Myles Garrett and how that would affect Jalen Carter in a couple years, that's probably going to have to weigh a toll on Washington's decision-making. Yeah. Because that guy is going to get paid a much, much different number than old Jalen Carter and anyone else we're talking about on the defensive side of the ball. So
for sure. And something else for the Commanders that they got to watch out for. Obviously, their quarterback's young, right? And he's like same age as Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
He's young. He's young. Nonetheless, he's young. The rest of the guys around him, though, Austin Eckler's of the world, the Terry McLaurin's, Deebo Samuel, if they bring Zach Ertz back, right? These are all guys roughly 30-plus years old, right? And so
they need
to get a little bit of a youth movement going there this offseason.
Yeah, well, look, I respect Ertz to all hell, and obviously he had a nice game in the championship. But like Austin Eckler, bro, get the fuck out of here. Like what?
I know.
What are we doing? But
I know.
All right, let's pivot. Let's move on.
Sir.
It felt good to talk Eagles again. We talked Eagles for so long.
The whole show.
We reached the pinnacle, and then it's like, all right, we got to start to pivot away from them. And then it's like, once we get back, I can't stop because, again, you can't knock me off of every other NFL fan. You can't knock me off of where my place is.
Basking in the glory.
Yeah. So I'm gonna keep here.
What are we supposed to talk about? The Sixers and the tanking and Joel's knee.
We got the conversation starter. The Sixers win a game the other night. Quentin Grimes drops 44. Very nice. Joel's happy for him. Obviously, restricted free agent at the end of the year. It's a conversation that we can continue to have throughout the season and see how he continues to look next to Maxey and Paul George and whatever else continues to go on there. But yeah, I don't want to win another game the rest of the season, Scotty, if I'm being quite honest with you.
No.
We play Portland tonight. I believe we're 3-point favorites against the Trailblazers tonight. I don't want to win tonight. I want to lose every single possible game I have the rest of the way. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not openly rooting for. No, it's just it's. I want to check the social media. I want to check the ESPN app, and I want to see Sixers with a lower number than their opponent the rest of the way, and get me inside the top 6, the top 5, whatever it has to be to stay our pick, and then as best we can climb the ranks come lottery night. That's where I'm at with everything, man. Like,
it would be so Sixers to ruin your draft standing at this point. It would be so Sixers to do that. I'm with you, man. Quentin Grimes, great story. Yabusele, great story.
For sure. 2 guys I want back next year. 2 guys that could be valuable role players that could come off the bench for this team and contribute to what I think could be a champion. Like,
Quentin, let's just chill, man. Like, 44. Let's relax.
Yeah, I don't need.
Calm down. We do not need this dub.
But I don't need that.
Maxey did his best tankathon performance that he could, man. 5 points, 2 for 14 from the field. I need these guys to lose out.
I got to be honest. What's happened to Tyrese Maxey since the All-Star break needs to be studied a little bit.
Apparently, there's something with his finger, like his hand. Oh,
yeah, I saw that. He was learning a nurse how to grip the ball with 3 fingers.
To shoot with 3 fingers.
Hey, guys, I have an idea.
Sit him out.
Yeah. So hold on. We just officially locked down the big fella for the rest of the year. We are 100 games under 500. We're tied with the Nets record-wise. That's how bad this story has been written this year.
Yeah.
And we are going to trot out an injured Tyrese Maxey and try to teach him how to shoot with less fingers gripping a ball at this point of the season. What are we doing?
It costed us too, man. We moved a half game ahead of the Brooklyn Nets.
I'm tired of this shit.
We gotta chill. They play the Portland Trailblazers tonight.
How fucking ironic, man. How ironic is it going to be when they get the 10 seed?
Oh, man. It's going to be the worst. It's going to be the worst.
How ironic is it going to be when they
It's going to be the worst case scenario.
And Tyrese Maxey goes out and drops 48 with 3 fingers and they win a game in the play-in. And then they're a game away from making the playoffs and we lose the pick. Oh yeah, how ironic is that all going to be? I know we want to talk about the Josh Harris story, but I just had to, I fucked up. I meant to put this in my opener because it's the biggest storyline in sports.
It is
over the weekend.
It is,
dude. Oh fuck yeah, happened in Martian's home country as well, up in Canada
with The Rock.
Yeah, dude, it was awesome. So awesome. I think I said this before. I watch WWE, I think about 4 events a year. I watch the Royal Rumble, I watch the Elimination Chamber because it's cool. I watch WrestleMania, and then maybe let's say Cena is has the belt at SummerSlam. I'll tune into that. Yeah. I'll watch it for nothing else anymore. And if nothing else is going, if The Rock's not involved or Cena or whatever, I won't watch any of them. But we watched this one and it was fucking awesome, dude. Because if you we've talked about this, you were a WWE kid.
Yeah.
What heel means is turn into a bad guy. The one thing that the man has not been for 25 years is a bad guy.
It's been the good guy with the kids,
the storyline, right? Yeah, the storyline with The Rock and with Cody Rhodes and which was so weird because I was like listening to The Rock say, "I want your soul," and I'm like, "What the fuck is going on here?" Like, I want
Cody
your soul,
Rhodes is
Cody.
like the
I want
ultimate
everything.
good guy.
And then it was awesome because we're on Peacock. We're not even on Netflix. And Cody Rhodes tells The Rock to go fuck himself, which was hilarious. And then, yeah, you get The Rock doing this, and then Cena, and here we are. Cena's the bad guy in his farewell tour. So
you gotta love it.
Cena sucks has been said quite often over the last decade and a half. But either way, I love it. Pivot back to the Sixers and Josh Harris. Speaking of a villain, Scotty, speaking of a heel, Joel Embiid had to go to ownership and speak with Josh Harris, I guess, about the fact that he can't give it a go the rest of the season. And where the report from Shams the other day is where Joel's mind is and where the Sixers' mind is in terms of treatments and resolutions are different, which is fucking troublesome. Because, again, how much can we continue to screw this situation up? The Sixers just want to keep injecting him every month to get him on the floor for a couple games and try to play him in the post. That was legitimately going to be their goal. They thought 18 games under 500. Hey, let's try to get him to the playoffs. They thought that was a smart idea. Joel basically said, yeah, no, not happening. I saw a report today. He might go to Germany for like Christian McCaffrey or whatever it was.
The Kobe Bryant shots.
Yeah,
like, I don't know what that means, but yeah. I saw it was like some surgery they do out there on the knees and ligaments, different.
Yeah, I'm all out of things to say on the injury itself, and like,
I have no idea.
And all. I just wanted to bring it up because it's just another chapter in what has been the craziest fucking book in Sixers history, and how you can continue to fuck up a situation like this. Yeah, he had to go to Josh Harris himself. Like, what did he do? Knock on the door? Excuse me, Mr. Harris, can I speak to you for a second? Yeah, I can't play the rest of this year. Is that how that conversation went? Just highly confused with how they continue to do this, man.
Yeah, no, I don't get it either. Just speaks to Josh Harris as an owner and how the organization is.
Hey, he did just get Debo, though. He just
ran horrible.
For Debo Samuel.
Yeah, Debo. Yeah, the best player in the NFL. Yeah, I think that's just where we're at with the Sixers too, man. Is like, they had the whole arena thing, which I was kind of on the Sixers side with the arena. I kind of wanted it in the city in a sense because it upgrades it in a sense, but I do get, it would displace certain business. I'm not getting into all of that right now. It doesn't matter at this point. It's already, been terminated. So, but you just have that with the city, right? And that's like one crack in the relationship between ownership, Josh Harris, and the city of Philadelphia. And now you just have like all the other stuff too. He already owns the New Jersey hockey team. He owns, the division rival Commanders that have now sprung into the scene, and you have their fans like talking shit to us constantly. So the rivalry's even heated up more now. So there's another crack or two in that relationship with Josh Harris. And I think at this point, just sell the team, man.
Yeah, because dude, like, good for you. Like, you're a businessman. I get it.
We don't like you.
Go do that in a city that doesn't give a fuck.
Go buy the Wizards.
Yeah. Like, you can get away with dipping your hands in different cookie jars and having all these different ventures and other teams and other and other leagues, and not have to pay so much attention and care as much in other areas, in other cities. You can't get away with that here. You're not going to survive. The issue is he's not a coach, he's not a GM, he's an owner. So he can survive as much as he wants, but we'll see how that continues.
His loss,
people do the right thing. I got news for everybody. Stop. I don't care if tickets are $2. Don't go to a game.
They're not, though. Like, for the tickets to be that low, people are not going to the games. And I was going to say that. I think that's why other Sixers fans out there this season, you did have the Eagles going in a deep playoff run, winning the Super Bowl, so it takes some of the attention away from the team. But why was everybody so quick to turn heel on the Philadelphia 76ers? I was so quick to stop watching them.
Oh, yeah.
Why is that? It's not Joel Embiid. It's not Tyrese Maxey.
So uninvested in a team.
Yeah.
If we're being honest, you and I have spent more hours on over the last 4 years together in this journey. Talking about and putting in work in, because the Eagles are a focal point. The Eagles are once a week, like in terms of a pregame show. And then, we talk about them throughout the week, but the Sixers were also always a part of weekly conversations. And for a long period of time, we were so invested. We were probably doing 50 to 60 pregame shows over the last 2 years for the Sixers regular season. And then basically every playoff game that they were involved in. And why didn't we this year? Because it was so quick to just turn ugly.
It was the injuries, Martian, and sure, like George's performance, but you can have all of that. Like the Eagles season the year before, right? Like last season, before we won the Super Bowl, I watched every single game down the stretch. I went down with the ship because I'm that invested in the Philadelphia Eagles organization. It's not just like the players, it's not the performance, it's the organization, how it's ran, how it's presented to the city, how the city gravitates to it and it gravitates back. And the Sixers just don't have that. And they haven't had it. Even in the years where they're good, yes, there's buy-in, there's wanting to win and get to the next level, but it still never gets to the point of and maybe it's just football, right? Maybe it's just the NFL, but the Eagles have a special place.
It's
the
funny,
Phillies,
man.
The Phillies are a perfect example. Look at the Phillies in the postseason. Red October. It's a thing. Like, we don't have anything like that for the Sixers
not at all. And even you brought up when things go bad, you stay invested in the Eagles, but why not the Sixers? It's like the Phillies. Like the Phillies went on that drought last year where they were fucking around and people were getting frustrated. But guess what? The ballpark was selling out. Everybody was still watching on a night-to-night basis because the organization is just different. And I know people joke around with the Flyers because hockey is a niche sport and it's not as big or whatever. The Flyers get thought as of the ugly stepsister in town.
The forgotten
sibling. Like that in reality, it's with the Sixers because part of the Sixers issue with the stadium is that's the Flyers building. The Sixers, for as long as we can remember, have rented from the Flyers. They don't own their own building in the city. Their owner is probably the least caring owner. It definitely is the least caring owner in the city. And it's just a musical chair clown show when it comes to
the Flyers have exactly what you said, a niche following. At least they have a following, a diehard set of fans. I agree with Martian. The secrecy around the injuries, I think that's part of ownership and being transparent with the fans. Because how many people wouldn't have bought season tickets? If they knew Embiid was going to be in and out like this all season. The lack of transparency.
That's the number one thing for me because it's unhonest. Kickstarted the season in such a negative direction after we build it up all summer long. And now it's all right, we have this finished project. It's Paul, it's Joel, it's Maxey, it's all these role players we signed. And now you're fucking with me. Every other day is a different update about Joel Embiid. And that just rubbed me the wrong way. And I think it rubbed 99%, if not 100% of the fan base the wrong way. So
And you just think back, man. You think back because this comment is really hitting me right now. Because I think back to when Howie moved on from a guy like Carson Wentz, to Jalen Hurts, right? And the balls that it takes to do that, but it was the right move. Now looking back in hindsight, and it's that's the type of decision making.
And it's so anti what we do.
It's so anti what the Sixers do, man. They just stick in. They get caught in quicksand and they just allow themselves to sink, and this is what we get here. But let's talk some Phillies before we get out of here, man. Let's spend some time there.
Yes, sir. What do you got for me? I know you sent me a question earlier.
This is something that's been on my mind, and I'm interested to see where you take it. I've been thinking about the Phillies this year. I think there is a lot of pressure. I think it coincides with the Eagles. Whether you believe that maybe the Eagles took some pressure off of them, maybe they put some more pressure on them to get over the hump and win. But when you look at this Phillies team and when you think of it across all three levels, ownership, GM management, right? And then you look at Rob Thompson being the manager of the club, and then down into the roster, who do you think has the most pressure on them going into this season? Individually thinking here. You got Trey, you got Bryce, you got down the line. Aaron Nola gets a new contract. All types of different things, different directions you can go there.
All right, let me separate this for you in different ways of pressure. Because on one side, I think there's some pressure off the field. Well, it has to do with on the field, but off the field in terms of job security. Like there's pressure to succeed because the future could be iffy, maybe like this offseason or whatever. And then there's legacy pressure, or there's just winning pressure, stuff like it'll make sense. I think off the field, in terms of Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson, there is a little bit of job security. I'm not a fire Rob Thompson guy. I'm not a I hate Dombrowski sits on his hands guy. But from the way that last year ended, the lack of urgency this offseason, because I like the moves. I love the Luzardo move. I like the Kepler move. I like the Romano move. But there's nothing splashy, flashy, like this is going to get us over the top. Issues that were here at the end of last year are still here, right? We have questions. If you're Dave Dombrowski and at the deadline we're second in the NL East and we're fighting with the Braves and the Mets for first or whatever, and you're not aggressive again at a deadline, and we sit on our hands and we're a first or second round exit in the postseason, there's questions. Rob Thompson, there are most certainly going to be questions about, because this fan base, I've never seen a fan base more divided on a more winning coach in my life, Scott. Well, I can't say that because Nick Sirianni has gotten
Sirianni immediately came to mind.
But ever since he has taken over for Joe Girardi, there have been people that are just, I'm not a Topper guy, fire Topper.
Yeah.
And I know. I'm holding to a lesser standard. They haven't won it all. They're going in a downward trajectory. But from a percentages standpoint, from numbers, all they've done since he's taken over is win a lot of fucking baseball games.
Yeah.
But you don't start to get back into those graces. You don't flip the script from the end of last year in that Mets series. There are going to be questions. So Rob Thompson, Dave Dombrowski, 1,000% are under.
Who more out of those two? So we'll keep them in their own little classification.
Yeah.
Who has more pressure on them, Dombrowski or Thompson? Or are they a package deal? Are they if one's out, both of them are out?
No, I think it's Topper ultimately in terms of job security. I think that's the easier thing to do. I think in baseball you see it all the time. You could see that shit in June. You could see that shit in August. It doesn't matter. They'll move on the drop of a dime. So I think Topper's got more to worry about in that, concern.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that either necessarily have to worry. But again, you don't win the division this year. Maybe you're the 5th seed or you're the last wild card in again because the division's so tight and great, and we lose in the divisional round again. At a certain point, man, you got to get it done. Now, from a player's perspective, because I think I think you've probably been sitting on this ever since I mentioned the Castellanos conversation.
Yeah.
Of, we're playing with a little bit of house money. There's less pressure this year, which is such an interesting thing to say after a disappointing end to last season. I think Trey Turner is under a great amount of pressure because of the contract and whether or not he has lived up to it. We've gotten the spurts. Don't get it twisted. But I said it to you earlier. I mean, I have faith that Trey Turner has his best years in a Phillies uniform this year. I just truly do. I think he hits leadoff, and I think it just gets him right. I think he hits close to 300 this year. But he's under a lot of pressure because he's the guy that, in terms of expectation-wise and production-wise, it doesn't always add up, right?
Yeah.
I think at this point, so many people understand the Castellanoses and the Schwarbers and the Marshes of the world, right?
That's exactly where I was going.
JT, I mean, he's the best defensive catcher. Like, he always gets that, right? He's
Yeah,
the best defensive catcher in baseball, so blah, blah, and whatever. Bryce, I mean, don't get me wrong. There are idiots out there that still call in the local radio stations and bitch about Bryce Harper. It is the most mind-numbing thing ever. But there ain't really pressure on Bryce Harper in that sense. Trey Turner, $300 million, has not quite lived up to. When we made the move for Trey Turner, the thought was you might have just gotten the best shortstop in baseball.
Yeah.
That's the thought. You add in fielding issues. You add in mental lapses. You add in struggles at the plate. He's chasing now. All this different shit you add in with Trey Turner has not quite lived up to people's expectations. We've already given him a standing ovation because he needed it.
Yeah.
You can't have that needed again, brother. You cannot be in a scenario where you need the crowd to get behind you again because
is this his third season with the Phillies? This is going to be his third season. Yeah, I do agree with you ultimately because I think he is the one that has room to grow in a sense, right? He's the one that has maybe not fulfilled exactly what he is capable of fulfilling. And I think when you look at age as well, looking at some of the other guys, it's like, you know what you're going to get from Bryce in a sense. Is he going to be better than his previous seasons at this point in his career? Maybe, but it's not something that you're going to throw on his list of expectations. With Bryce, it's just about winning at this point. But with Trey, I think there is optimism to be had there with Trey and his performance. To your point, the money that's invested, but also the numbers that he's put up elsewhere. And if they can just change the approach from this batting lineup a bit, I think the guy that could be helped out the most by that is Trey Turner, to your point. I do think there is some pressure on Bryce Harper, though. I think, like, in the sense of numbers or like day to day, no, I don't think the pressure is on Bryce, but I just think that underlying pressure of, you were the beginning of this. It's kind of like Joel Embiid in a sense. Like, you were the beginning of this process and like the long-standing character that's maintained here, right? The leader, the number one. At what point do we finally turn the page and say we're not winning a World Series in the Bryce Harper era of Philadelphia? And I think that's where the pressure comes in. It's not necessarily like, this at bat in the postseason, all the pressure's on Bryce Harper for his legacy. No, it's just about really getting over the hump while he's been here in Philadelphia.
And while he's at this level.
That feeling of, are we going to be able to get back there? Like, we still have that feeling that we can get back to the NLCS, take on a team like the Dodgers, and see where it goes, right? When do you lose that optimism with this roster and with this team led by Bryce Harper? I think that's the pressure that is on Bryce. It's more of a team pressure, rather.
Right, because Bryce is the nucleus of it all, brother. Like, let's not get that. Like, on this lineup,
guys don't come here if Bryce doesn't come here.
It's that, and it's just even from an overall production standpoint, man. And if he gets injured, when he's missed time, you have a gaping hole. I don't care if you have the Kyle Schwarbers and the Trey Turners and the JT Realmutos. You missing that guy crushes everything. So at the level or near the level he's been playing, when is that window? Is it when he's 35 years old, 36 years old, and he starts to slow down and he's not that stable, consistent guy at the 3-hole or whatever? That is a question. I want to say, and I know I'm going to sound overly optimistic because I think, I'm going to sit here, I think we get the best Trey Turner here. I think you get a different kind of Bryce Harper. I'm not going to say you get the statistical best Bryce Harper that we've gotten in Phillies uniform. I mean, Christ's sake, the dude's won an MVP. He has, in 2022, arguably the greatest statistical postseason run a player's ever had. I think if there's going to be a player that is motivated by failure or feels what the fan base feels from last year and, adding the culmination of the last couple years and lets that affect them in a positive way, I think it's that dude this year. I think you get, in a positive way, a business-like, pissed-off Bryce Harper where, he's not going to hit 303 for you. He's not going to hit 298 for you this year, right? Maybe he only hits 280. But in those big moments, he's going to win you a lot of baseball games.
Yeah.
And in the playoffs, he's going to come through. So I'm very optimistic in the Bryce Harper year this year.
So to me, hearing all of this, it sounds like the pressure is on Dombrowski, in my opinion. Like, it sounds like as we approach the trade deadline during this season, there's going to be a move that needs to be made to allow us to compete at a higher level. Yeah. And it's going to come down to Dombrowski making a move that he hasn't been able to do since he's gotten here at the trade deadline, right?
Correct.
And I think that's where the pressure comes on, because if all of these things happen, if Trey Turner comes out and he looks like the Trey Turner we've been waiting on, moving Kyle Schwarber down in the lineup, maybe we see something with the lineup spark. You get Bryce Harper through a season healthy. Can we just get that? Like, can we just get a season without Bryce Harper gone for like a 20-game span? Like, nothing longer than that. I
didn't realize Trey missed 61 games last year.
Interesting. So what, a third of the season almost, roughly?
About, yeah.
A little over, I guess, but...
Or I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry. Matt's off. 41 games. 41.
41.
Yeah.
41.
Because I was going to say, bro, Trey hit 295 last year.
So he had a good season.
He had a very good season. But again, it's just, look, how can we get the most out of these individuals that, like, for the reasons they were brought here? And what I mean by that is it feels like every guy that's been brought here that's a stud, it's not that they've been bad or such a huge flop and disappointment. It's that, like, that approach that we keep going back to has, like, crept in to all of their games, right? Bryce is now a huge chase guy. Trey's a chase guy. Bowen's a chase guy. And that wasn't the case before. Yeah, Schwarber might chase, but Schwarber walks 100 times. So what the fuck do I know? But, like, that's the thing. Can I get Trey Turner? Look at, like, Trey Turner.
They pick each other up,
brother? Trey Turner in 2021, he was traded at the deadline from the Nationals to the Dodgers. In 96 games with the Nationals, he hit 322. And then when he was traded to the Dodgers in the second half of the year, he hit 338. I mean, my God. The next year with the Dodgers, his final year, 160 games played of 162, 298 average, 100 RBIs, and almost 200 hits. That's a different level. Like, yeah, he hit 295 last year, Scotty. He only drove in 62 runs. Those are different level players right there.
They have to play together. I think that's something that you could argue that they are almost like too aligned as far as chemistry where they all go cold at the same exact time. But that what you're talking about, they need to be able to pick each other up. If Bryce is going through a cold streak, then guess what, Bohm? You can't chase today. You got to be on your shit when you're at that. Let's help Bryce out today. Same thing. Whether it's Bowman, it's second in the lineup. If it's Bryce, they move out of the 3 spot to the 2 spot. You got to pick up Trey today, and so on, so forth down the lineup. It's too often that you see a guy chase, and then the next guy chase, and then you just see like these just unrealistic, unbearable cold spells in the worst parts of the season, specifically in the postseason, right? And we've seen it creep up earlier and earlier in the postseason the last 3 years. Because this got to change. You got to find a way to work together in that sense. And I think that's what's missing is like a little bit of teamwork throughout the lineup is probably the difference between the Phillies and other teams that have beaten us.
Classic saying, pass the baton.
Yeah, exactly.
Pass it to the next guy. Exactly. You got to walk in this spot to pass to the next guy, pass it to the next guy.
It's what everybody's talked about the last couple seasons. Like, we always shooting for the moon, right? Always trying to crank one out. Yeah. Let's play the long game a little bit here, right?
Because, man, because we know how talented this lineup and this team is. And I'm tired in bigger moments watching lesser names, lesser talented guys, younger, inexperienced guys come up and play small ball and play the right way and pass the baton and drive runs in big clutch moments where we're not. Like, that Diamondback series eats at me, bro. Eats at me.
Yeah. Because that team is not more talented than
Corbin Carroll, a catcher and Gabby Moreno, a Lourdes Gurriel. These names that just they don't deserve to be on your level. And they're playing the way they need to play to drive runs in. And Bryce Harper striking out 2 times tonight. Kyle Schwarber's 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Alec Boehm's chasing in the dirt. Castellanos can't lay off of anything low and away. And it's like, my God, man, who would you rather have, this team or us? And it's going to be us 100 times out of 100.
Yeah.
And they beat us. And last year, I'm watching dorky ass Brandon Nimmo, and I'm watching who's their catcher, the little pudgy dude, Alvarez. I'm watching just not chase, and then we're chasing, and I gotta listen to the broadcast talk about how much we chase, and it's like you're being paid $300 million.
Yeah,
stop. Do your job.
Painful.
Do the job, Trey, that you've done for the last 10 years of your life.
I think it's one of those things where it can give you some optimism, but it also can give you a little bit of narcissism in a sense as well. And the optimism comes from the fact that this could all just be mental. And all you have to do is get over that mental hump as a team to play your best ball come October, come the most important moments of the postseason. The other side of it is that maybe they just can't. Maybe they are mental midgets, mental small people, and they cannot get over that hump. And there's 2 ways you can look at it going forward, I think. It's
hard for me, man, because
it's the Dodgers too, and the talent they've added. Like the fact that you do have juggernauts now compared to, the last 2-3 seasons where, yes, the Dodgers got Shohei last offseason, right? And it turned into what it turned into this past season. Right. Wasn't like that necessarily before. Like the Dodgers have always have a money-filled stacked team. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, dude, they signed everybody this year.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, last year they went out and traded or signed Glasnow, who got injured and didn't even pitch for them in the large majority of the season. I mean, he's a legit number 1. They go out and they get Tanner Banks this year. They retained Teoscar Hernandez and Tommy Edman, who they weren't supposed to retain as role guys, and Teoscar's winning the home run derby, and it's Kirby Yates is go. It's very disgusting how much talent they have. But again,
there's the optimism. If Bryce, Trey, and Schwartz and Cassie and Bohm and Stott, if these guys can get it going at the right moment in the postseason, you can compete with them. You can compete with them as much as anybody else could dream of, right?
For sure.
It doesn't mean that you're going to beat the Dodgers. I'm not going out and stamping that. But when you're at the top of your game, who knows, man?
Man. And
why are we discounting what Bright? I think that is part of what you talked about as we talked about the Phillies before the season really gets going is – Are we sleeping on Trey Turner and Bryce Harper at this point, right? And they have to come out and
underselling who we view as stars as less now because, the Dodgers went out and did this. Look, baseball more than any sport that we know is momentum, but it's also that mountain is so hard to climb consistently. And the Dodgers just went through a grueling injury season, won a World Series. They got to play 162 like everybody else.
Yeah.
And then get back there. So we'll see how it plays out, man. But I think we got 23 days till opening day for the MLB. I believe the Phillies open up in 25 days from today in DC. By the way, I don't know if you're interested, brother. I know I'm throwing this out live on the air, and if anyone else is getting down there, let me know. But I'm going to DC for the opening weekend, and I'm going to the Saturday game. So we'll see. But guys, there's 50 of you in here right now. I know you're not all on the YouTube page. So do us a favor, do yourself a favor. If you're watching on Twitter, go check out the link tree in our bio. Check out the YouTube link specifically and subscribe. Send it to your friends, family, any other Philly sports fans you may know of. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you. For myself, for Scotty, for DSM, have a great rest of your night. Go Blue Devils, brother.
Yeah, go Blue Devils.